So does, I know he was limited yesterday, but does Tua's hip look like it's going to at all impact him or your game planning this week?
December football, everyone's working through stuff going to the game. So, I mean, it's if you're feeling completely healthy in December, you probably haven't played a whole lot. So, like, we're just working through the process to the game, and I'm confident we'll be ready to go when Sunday comes.
So not a big concern with Tua specifically?
I mean, no, there's no concern for us. We're just working through, all the little things that come out of each game with everyone.
Frank, the final interception of the game where Tyreek is fighting for the ball, is that one that he should come down with? Is that one that he usually comes down with?
I mean, it's hard to say like that specific moment. I mean, I think that play kind of goes into a lot of the culmination of the game of like our execution was not where we felt where we needed to be for a multitude of reasons. So, overall, a lot of learning that we did from that game of how we could have been putting ourselves in a better position, especially the way our defense played to give us a shot. So it'll be a good week for us this week to learn from the stuff we did because it'll be a similar system of defense.
How ready do you feel that Malik is to have an elevated role? And obviously, Rivers seems to be the next man up if you're forced to play without Jalen.
Very confident. The way he goes about his business, the way he learns and grows each week from things that happen, the way he responds, especially after the Green Bay game, the way he responded after that. I think it's a credit to him and how mature he is. I mean, that was the first thing that stuck out to us. I mean, you would have thought he was in the NFL for 6 years when he first showed up, just how much focused he was. So we're very confident in all the guys that we're going to field, and we'll make sure that we use everyone appropriately.
With Tyreek, obviously, Jalen's presence, they always have the safety over him, but now teams get to pay extra attention to Tyreek. Do you think that at some point this year he's getting frustrated or has been frustrated just by the limited role that he's had or the extra attention that he's gotten? I mean,
no, he's such a competitor and he's such a good teammate. I think he ultimately, the goal is to win the games, not the production you get. And some years you can have massive production. Do you get what you want? Other years you're, fighting for the stuff. And I think he's just, the way he's handled himself this year is really why he's here. He's just a great teammate and a great pro, and his ultimate goal is to win.
What was your assessment of Jackson Carman at right tackle, and was there any thought given to Liam, who has played that position before, kicking him out there, or Isaiah Wynn?
Yeah, I think we weighed all variables to the situation. Jackson competed and played hard. There's obviously some plays that he would want back, but the goal is we're just trying to make sure we have the versatility so that all of the variables that come up, we can put ourselves in the best position with the group to win.
And how did Patrick Paul do?
You can see with him the growth. It's coming. Things that he's learning from, putting himself in better position, the physicality. So really excited for him this week, especially from a lot of the things we saw positive from the Houston game.
And where's Isaiah Wynn right now in terms of his return, rehab, physical contribution, they will contribute?
I think he's trending the right way, preparing the right way, and who's going to play on Sunday obviously will be part of the process for this week as we weigh all the things.
In saying you're really excited about Patrick this week, do you mean practice or the game Sunday?
Well, maybe both. Excited for practice today and the game. Excited just in general. Yeah, he's an enjoyable person to be around, Barry. Just excited to see him in all phases of his life.
I wanted to ask about Tua's accountability. McDaniel praised both him and Tyreek's just ability to take accountability for the interceptions on Sunday. What does that process look like for Tua? Is it as simple as just my bad, or what is it? What does that look like?
It's just when things don't go the way you hope. It's how do you learn from it, and do you own the mistake and stuff like that? And I think that's where we're very lucky. We're two of our captains. Both are very accountable to each other, and that's how we get better from things and making sure that we can grow to the next week and not have same repeated mistakes. So I think it's not just them, but all the guys are very accountable to each other. Hal, why are you back there, man?
I think because I'm coughing.
Oh, coughing? Gotcha. You're throwing me off. I was like, wait a second. That's
It's my twin brother.
Exactly. It's Lamb.
What do you like about Isaiah McKenzie, the guy who's now around?
I think that for him, he brings obviously his experience and speed. I think for us, ultimately, it's making sure that we have guys who can, obviously run and separate, and those are the vital positions to the receiver position. We thought that was the best option for us at this time to get him.
You watch offensive line play and you know it's not good on replay. Are you a guy who pounds the table? Do you get very angry? I'm just curious behind the scenes. What is it like when you watch bad film? I'm up here. I'm kind of, trying to keep it. But when you're watching stuff, it's the intensity of the moment, making sure that we're performing. But what's ultimately if you get result driven and you're going hey, why? It's more, why did that happen? Where were we off? Where are we getting connected? Is it one thing or is it a deeper thing? Why did we lose on that block? Was our track wrong at back? Were we too tight? Were we too wide? There's normally a multitude of factors, and it's as you have that initial reaction to things of a result that you don't like, or now it's immediately, okay, what's into the process? What really happened? Okay, where's the deeper issue of how you get the correction tool? So I think the easy thing to do is you sit there and go oh, we didn't block, or we missed that or did that, and you realize, oh, okay, well, were we too tight at back? Were we too wide? Were we laid off the ball? And those are the things that now lead to what you're looking for, and that's the increase in production. I think that's ultimately where I've learned as I've gotten older it's controlling emotion and focusing on the process to improve.
I feel like teams like the 49ers can be you all right, Joe?
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, well, we've got to space out the whole room. I feel like it's 2020 around here.
I feel like teams like the
Exactly.
49ers can be like measuring sticks just because of the success that they've had recently. Obviously, they haven't been as good this year, kind of banged up, similar to what happened here. Am I right in that regard? I'm sure the preparation doesn't necessarily change, right? But just knowing that this is a great team who's had a lot of success, is it? Is the approach the same, or is it okay, I want to make sure that we are. I want to see where we are at the end of this game. I'm kind of butchering this question. But.
No, but I think I know what you're getting. I think, but ultimately, this time of year is that you want to make sure every opponent we face, we're at our best, and you want to face the best to bring out your best. So a lot of usage of the word "best" there. But ultimately, for us right now, it's learning from Houston, getting our improvement in this week, so we can execute versus 49ers on Sunday. So. Whenever you face an opponent that's had a lot of success, it's a great challenge, and I think that's what you look forward to as a competitor.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I was with you, man.
I appreciate it.
Do you see similarities, or is that even something that you think about with the trajectory of their season versus you guys? I know there were high expectations on both ends. What are your thoughts on where both teams are, I guess, at this point in the season?
I don't know if I necessarily have an opinion towards them just because, sole focus. The reality is, a coach, it's questions like that may seem simple. It's we get so tunnel vision done, our process and where we're trying to get and how we're trying to improve and manage all our variables. It's hard to say you have enough time to okay, how are they doing and what's going on with that, as opposed to I'm just trying to make sure that my kids show up on time and don't frickin' drive everyone crazy around it whenever I have time off. My focus goes from work, family, the rest of the NFL is you kind of pick it up on Monday a little bit when you're walking around, but I really haven't. I think a lot of that is each team, you just worry about your own as much as you can.
We don't have Eric on the list of available coaches this month, so I want to ask you this.
Stu's still available.
Huh?
Stu's still available.
Yeah, it's not today.
Eric Stu's
Today
not?
it's
Coaching availability.
You just spoke about it.
Yeah, he'll be on the field today.
I love it. So when Mike obviously has been asked a lot this week about the run game and the struggles over the last month, he did say last Sunday was more a case of blocking. But I want to ask you, with Shane Is he finding holes and creases as quickly, as alertly this year as he did last year?
Yes, I think there's a lot of times that when you look at the Jets game. I mean, we had a 40-yarder called back. Like that's the issue with a lot of like the runs. We had another one that got down in the red zone that got called back that would have been a double-digit gain. I think just there's a lot of things where when we have success in the last recent weeks, we do something to, bring it back. And that's what we have to improve. And the schemes we're using, the people we're using, and being connected as a unit is the most important thing. But it's when it comes to the run game, it's just not one thing. It's a multitude of things, and that's what we're in the goal of this week to make sure we fix it.
Is he making people miss the way he did last year?
Yeah, but yes, he is. But it's the opportunities to get in those same spots, the space that we had last year, where he was several times runs where it's a lot of space. Where this year it's making sure that we have those moments because he's had runs called back and so have the other guys, and that's where right now is where our sole focus goes to is like how do we make sure that we're getting connected as blocking so our running backs can get in the same areas that we were able to get in the past. That's the ultimate goal, I think, when you really look at it.
So with yesterday good, full participant Bradley still limited, is that purely a medical issue of where they are, or is it more a conditioning issue? Why is one ahead of the other?
Yeah, that is a question better served for the head coach and our medical staff. When they're out there, like I said, they're both competing, all right, and the few full speed reps they have, they look great, and I'm sure it's just a confidence timing issue and for them to be ready to go.
Does Chubb look to you like someone who's able to help this week? I know it's ultimately a group decision, but from your eyes.
Yeah, I think he looks like a guy who's trying to work himself back to where he's used to being. He flashes, but again, having been there, there's just, you don't want to touch that field as a competitor unless you know you're your best self. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself at risk. So I know when he does play, he'll be ready to go. And from what I've seen so far, he's out there making plays and looks good, like he's getting to that point.
What's your takeaway from your unit's performance at Houston?
Yeah, I mean, I was extremely proud of the group and their effort. Like I said, for us, we knew the playoffs started a month ago. In the 2 prior weeks against Green Bay and the Jets, we didn't think like we played up to par. So we knew we had to go out there and play our best game to date, and I thought we did that. So extremely proud of the group.
Your name has come up for head coach jobs last offseason, I think probably again this offseason. Is that something important to you that you would aspire to one day achieve?
Is it important to me? I'm so focused right now on the Miami Dolphins and these players. And from the beginning, since I've started coaching, I'd never sought that out. If the opportunity presented itself, I think I'd be good in the role. But is it something that I seek and go after? No. I'm truly working in service for these guys and focus on the now and just trying to pour into these guys and give them every ounce of wisdom that I have.
Is there something you feel you've added to your resume to what makes you a viable candidate this year in Miami?
I mean, shoot, I think I've been ready for the job for a few years now. I've served under a bunch of incredible mentors, right? I think the last 3 years I spent with Coach Harbaugh was a master class in just how to operate, move throughout the building, and push your players in the right direction without being demeaning or demonstrative, but yet still being demanding. And then, you get another experience here with Mike, who's very different, but still very effective and good at his role. So many guys that I think I'm obviously going to be my truest self if given that opportunity, but I certainly feel like I'm ready, yeah.
I wanted to ask about the first touchdown where C.J. Stroud, I think, found Nico Collins at the back of the end zone. Can you kind of go through what happened or what was supposed to happen there?
First off, much better description than Perks last week. Appreciate that. Sorry. I know exactly which play you're talking about. So we were in red 2. Okay, so we were playing a zone coverage, which essentially, like, once the route's declared, they become more matchy. Jordan Poyer didn't see the release of one. Really, once he released inside, he needs to if it becomes an in breaker, he should buy that, and then he should plaster essentially what happened. Now, it doesn't all fall on them. It's a 3-man rush, right? Because we drop our nose, there's a little bit of a void there in the middle, which you don't want them to throw the check down and just walk into the end zone. But we still got to be calculating how we rush and trying to keep this guy in the pocket, or at least just make him escape out the back. I think from a rush standpoint, we got a little high, right? Open the window for him to step up there when you're trying to really cage that guy down there. So certainly wasn't our best effort. And we've tried to, when I took this job, our red zone defense and improving upon that was a primary area of focus. So to fall short in that particular instance was, was disappointing.
See the kind of answer you can get, Perkins?
I was going to ask you about, I remember your comment when Poyer missed the game earlier saying don't sleep on Elijah Campbell. We've seen a small package, certainly these last three games have had 20 snaps, including starting against Houston. What about the skill set has intrigued you to use him with your other two safeties at times?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both Elijah's skill set and the range and physicality he shows back there at safety, and then Javon's ability to play some nickel as well. I think we've showed on multiple occasions, obviously, that we're willing to play Jalen there, right? And it puts a bigger body and presence there on the slot. And I think you can do the same thing with Javon. Cater, I thought he played an outstanding game and showed a willingness, particularly on some of those perimeter screens, to stick his face in the fan and stop those, which have been hurting us for a couple weeks. So, again, just trying to mix those guys back and forth and put bigger bodies there so that when teams do want to sling that ball out there, we have a bigger presence.
We think about facing George Kittle, considering some of the struggles this defense has had guarding tight ends.
Yeah, excited for the challenge. I mean, he's arguably one of the, and I don't think it's arguably at this point, but he's one of the best tight ends in the league. So whenever we face those guys, I think from a secondary standpoint, safety, linebacker position, these guys, they get excited for those opportunities and those challenges. So this is another good one. He's outstanding, right? Strong at the catch point, physical blocker, right? He can run all day. So just excited to see the matchup, and I think we got a good plan to contain him.
We know you don't want to ignore the rest of this season, but Chop's development and the potential next year of Chop, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what talk about that. How exciting is that?
You see the smile on my face as soon as you mention those three. But I think we all have seen from all three players what they're capable of. So the idea of having all three of them available and on the field at the same time, you completely opened up Pandora's box for me, and you just start thinking of ways you can use them in multiple positions and really scare and intimidate offenses. So it'd certainly be an awesome I want to say problem. It's certainly not a problem, but it'll be a lot of fun to see what we can do with all those three guys.
Coach, more with Chop. When you guys run those overload looks where he's the only guy on one side of the line, it seems like he's so adept at forcing that tackle to widen and create gaps for other guys. I'm curious, did you guys see that in his game coming out in college? Has he grown into that ability to be a guy that can be the one rusher on that side of the line?
No, we certainly saw that ability in college. Like I said, from a skill set and physical attribute standpoint, we saw that off the tape. We knew there was some refinement and teaching that needed to occur and development in terms of just his pass rush acumen. I think Coach Crow and Sean Ryan have done a tremendous job with him to this point, and his confidence is high right now. It's important for us to keep him there and then put him in as many advantageous opportunities to get one-on-ones.
Jordan, obviously, I don't think many of us expected him to be up here challenging Zach Thomas for the tackles lead. Did you expect that type of production from him coming out of Seattle?
Yeah, we were fortunate where we kind of had some insider information with Deshaun Shedd, who's on staff and works with the DB. So he had spent time with Jordan recently in Seattle and told us the type of player he was. So once he got in the building, it certainly wasn't a surprise that he's had the success he's had. He's a guy that approaches every day the same, gives the same effort regardless of whether he's dinged, how he feels, it doesn't matter. He's the same guy each and every day, and that's why he's had the success he has. So I'm not surprised by it. The consistency, the physicality, the temperament, usually those things equate.
With inside linebackers, I know the game of college football is kind of evolving. How do you think that's impacting that position? Because if you look at the draft, it's like inside linebacker is probably one of those positions where they're very sparsely found.
Yeah. it's just changed so much throughout the years because really, positionally from an attribute standpoint, that guy has gotten a little bit smaller, right? You have to be faster. It's become so much more of a space game. You know, the days of like Levon Kirkland, right, and those big mics being back there and plugging on a lead play. You don't need those bodies anymore. So, you know, you're always trying to figure out ways like is there a safety that can move inside and play backer and things of that nature, some big body type guys. But the position has become so much more athletic than it used to be. You used to have to have a cross of both that and then sheer physicality, right? Not that you lack that now, but you got to be able to run nowadays.
Coach, you could probably do this just about any given week, given all the coaches that have come off the Kyle Shanahan tree or the Shanahan tree, I guess. But is this week, do you spend more time maybe picking Mike's brain about what the Niners offense might do compared to other weeks?
I don't know. I mean, shoot, it's like every team you face nowadays is this scheme, right? So me and Mike spend an awful lot of time talking all the time, right? About ball, about life, about a number of things. So I think we're all very familiar with this system, right? We faced it all off season, and now it's just a matter of going out there and executing and trying to take away what they do best.
Where is Chop against the run at this point as we get to week 16?
Yeah, I think he's been doing a great job. I think he's doing a good job on the edges. When he's out there, we certainly don't see him as a liability in the run game. So I'm pleased where he's at. There's some times where there's some new things schematically that he hasn't seen, right? Where it's you get these kind of missile blocks and moving blocks. And I mean, offenses, they try to create chaos for this defensive ends because they make the most money, right? And they want to slow him down in pass rush too. So there's some of those things we try to protect him from, I guess, let's say. But I'm certainly pleased and no, we don't hesitate at all or think that we're at a disadvantage when he's out there in run situations.
As you look at this defense, do you then looking ahead, does it need overall help? Does it need situational help like run stuffers, different attitude? What do you think that? And I know.
Yeah, I certainly don't. I certainly don't think it's an attitude thing.
Right. No, either.
You know, like I said, I'm incredibly proud of the guys that are here and the way we've played today. I'm sure there isn't a coach in the National Football League that doesn't think they could use some help. Right, and there's certainly aspects that we can, but the guys that are here, I'm so proud of and have a tremendous amount of confidence in us being able to go out there and do what we need to do to win.
Anything else? I want to ask like a general football question. I guess going back to your playing days, how important is it for a player to have that one coach that makes a difference in their life and trajectory, and who was that for you?
I think it's enormous. There's obviously, I used to always say this about like when I was younger, in my younger days, pre-wife, love you, baby, okay? I used to always say like when you went out to the nightclub, you needed some of these ugly guys so you looked better, right? I think in coaching, it's the same way, right? You hope you are blessed as a player to be around a great coach, one who cares, one who's knowledgeable, one who's in it for the right reasons. Unfortunately, that isn't always the case. I was blessed that for the majority of my football life, I was around that and started early in high school with Blaise Juliano, who was my high school coach, who was a tremendous influence. And then when I got to this level, it was Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan he's a guy, I'm an Army brat, so this was not unusual for me, but the football space is always like very militant, very regimented, right? And then I got around Rex, and Rex did all that, but kept the game and kept it fun. So probably just from a coaching standpoint, and the two guys that probably had the biggest influence on me, both as a player and now as a coach, are Blaise Juliano and Rex Ryan.
One thing about the mentality, I guess, when you're at this point in the season, and even though there's a slim margin of chance that you guys can make the playoffs, what do you tell players in terms of, hey, these 3 games matter because of this?
Yeah. Shoot, every time you step on the field, it matters, right? The second you disrespect the game or you try to shortcut it, it disrespects you. So for us, again, I know the margin is slim at this point and things look bleak, but we have things to prove, right? This is our last home game, and our fans deserve our best effort. We got to go out there and defend the rock. Next week, we got to win the Colt and put that narrative to sleep. And in that last game against the Jets, they hung up 400 on us last time we played. So we have something to play in every single game. And I know our guys are going to answer the challenge.
So with Jason and the PATs, was it a technique thing, you think? Was there a common theme between the two?
No. We a little bit, timing was a little bit off, got a little bit too tight and wrapped it. So, something that you don't want to see, you hope it don't happen, but it did. We'll get it correct. He knew exactly, as soon as he hit it, he knew exactly what happened, so we'll get that cleaned up.
The snap and hold was fine on that play.
Not perfect, but had nothing to do with the result.
So 9 weeks ago, I raised to you the zany idea of going through an entire season alternating long snappers. And by George, by golly, it's turned out that way. This is long snapper number 5. What has left you in this position, and has it been a palatable scenario to be in?
Oh, jeez. If I can do, I'm going to blame you. You put the Maloiki on me. No, just how this season has played out from a roster standpoint, it just turned out that with continually things evolving and changing positionally on the club, that was what was best for the club and the organization and the team at this time. It's not something I recommend. It'll probably be a record that'll sit for a while. But fortunately, Jason and Jake have done a really good job of working with each guy we've brought in. The guys that we've brought in have been outstanding and dove into what we've asked them to do. It's not easy. I don't know if anybody thinks it is, but yeah, not. It's not, but they've done a great job, and we'll see where we're at with this week. Happy that Jake McQuaid was available, and we'll go from there.
And one last thing on this topic. Obviously, while not divulging anything at all personal about Blake, fans are concerned. Is he going to be okay?
Well, again, that's again not to put anybody's business out there. Number one, illegal, but yeah. But right now, for where the club is, the best decision was to let him know and inform him that he is not going to be snapping in a game for the rest of this season. Hopefully that puts at rest his mind and where he is and where he's working and what he's working on, and it also lets everybody else know where we're going and what we're doing. So there's not the constant question of what, where, when, how, why.
What are conversations like with those long snappers that keep coming in? Do you tell them right off the bat, hey, you're here for 3 games tops, and that's what it is?
You don't know. Ideally, I think when it started, there was, maybe a desire or a hope that one of them would be able to, but again, and it had nothing to do with any of those individuals as we went through this, but just as those weeks, as those guys were here, as we ate through those flexes that you're allowed 3 of them, there were lots of other things going on around the team at the same time that the best maneuver for the organization was to keep using the flex and use the 53 on other things, whether it be injury, whether it was a player available that we didn't feel like we could pass up. So there was a lot of things to go into it.
The fake punt. Mike McDaniel said you guys were prepared for it. What were you prepared? What happened there?
Well, again, it's like anything. Preparation is execution. So it was something that we were aware for. We were in a call that, based on their history and that situation, we felt good about. The execution is where we fell off. And I mean, you can talk to every coach, and regardless of position, and you can there's good calls, there's bad calls, but it doesn't matter what the call is. It's got to be executed. Whether it's technique or eyes or communication. When something gets missed, you give up a play or you make a play, conversely. So, we felt good about it before the ball was snapped, but, it was a big play in the game.
Danny, I remember your words at the start of this long snapper rotation. You used the phrase very risky.
Yeah.
Given that you haven't had a disaster along the way,
Oh, don't be the Maloiki guy.
do you feel fortunate? Were you holding your breath? I mean, what?
No, it's work, and it's hard. But again, I give the credit to the players, the guys that we've brought in, and then, obviously the rest of the group. It's hard on other players. It's hard on the guards. The guys on pump team after you get to a new guy, his sequence, his tendencies, his body style. The guys on field goal, same thing. The tempo, the timing. So there's so many more moving parts in it than you should probably think about. I have to think about it. So yeah, they've done a good job, but again, it's we still got games to play. So again, it's going to be something I continually work on and monitor and spend time on, and hopefully we continue to be able to execute.
How deep is this list of potential?
Yeah. As they say, we're into the desert. Yeah.
How would you grade this season for the special teams unit as a whole and your job leading it?
Yeah, we're not even close to even thinking about that. I got a practice today I got to get ready for and prepare for and work on. And we got another one tomorrow and a game, and then we got 2 more weeks. So that's you guys, that's not on my radar.
Who takes the lead in contacting long snappers? Is it Chris, someone else in personnel, or you?
In the personnel department, regardless of position, there's ready list. The personnel department has ready list. I have ready list. You're always tracking what's going on. Now with some of these new spring leagues that has added more bodies, you're able to get more tape. So, but there's the constant readiness, availability, because you never know when stuff's going to happen. You saw, sadly, you saw what happened in Houston last week, and they weren't able to do about it. But the night before the game, a player has to have emergency appendix surgery. There's so many things that happen. Car accidents, sickness. So you have to have that list ready to go, and you better have them stacked and be able to execute and hopefully get one in and move forward.
Danny, when you get to this part of the season, when playoff hopes are very dim in mid-December, do you have to motivate players? Do you rely on their professionalism? What's the kind of the process of keeping them motivated? Right?
Yeah, it's some of both of those things. Every individual is different. Everybody's individual is motivated by different things. Certain guys, how you approach them, it's all different. I look at it strictly like we are all professionals. I'm paid to coach and teach, and I'm going to coach and I'm going to teach every single day the same way I have my entire career when I was coaching at Division III colleges and coach. It doesn't, like, every single day I'm trying to get players better, more knowledgeable, to extend their career and win games. So it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to go 1-0 every week. It doesn't matter what our record is. I'm just trying to win the current game.
Can I ask you a question just as a football guy?
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, he has this tweet, this kind of cryptic tweet that says, "It's time for me to go, coach," after the loss to Houston. He did it yesterday. Do you find that distracting? Is that, there's what's called a troll, somebody who just likes to stir stuff up. Is he the perfect troll? Is this a distraction? What do you think about that? I
have no idea what you're talking about.
I just wanted to ask. You're a veteran football.
I don't read anything. I'm buried. I don't pay any attention to anything. Sorry.
No.
That's some good knowledge, though.
Is there a decent chance you guys use McKenzie this week?
Again, we have a couple guys injured, and hopefully we get some guys back. If not, he's a guy that we signed as a decent history in this league. So we're looking to a possibility, but again, that's still a couple days away. Obviously, we're always hopeful about the guys on the 53. If we have to, just as we have all year, we'll use those flexes on where we deem necessary. But he's a good player. Fortunately, he was available at this point of the season.
So it's going to ask you about the quality of Anthony Walker's play against the run. How would you assess it since he's become your starter?
Good. The thing that's, I've told you guys before, really, I'm fortunate with 4 of the 5 guys I have in my room, but
with Anthony specifically, he's played a bunch of ball in this league, and he's got great control and great command of what we're trying to do as far as a system. And he's just, you always like, especially with the green dot that you have on the field, he truly is our quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. And what he brings to us just from that regard is it's pretty unique and it's pretty special. And I think his leadership qualities, his command, like I said, I know it's not the same, but he is our quarterback on our side of the ball, and I think he brings that to us, and it's been great.
What are some of Jordan Brooks' attributes that have him always around the ball so active, where he's got 121 tackles already?
Yeah, Jordan's a talented guy. He really is. And I can't remember, at one point talking to you guys, I think I told you guys the story. I was actually at the Rams at the time. And, in the draft process as a position coach, you almost fall in love with guys. And the draft's a crapshoot. You never, it's like the percentages of you getting a guy, it's so low. But I remember the year he came out, we had him targeted very high, and he was going to be our guy. I don't think in LA we had a first-round draft pick that year, but we were like, okay, that's our guy. He's just got to last to the second round. And of course, Seattle took him in the first round. So you get heartbroken all the time in the draft with situations like that. But it's cool how this league works. 5 years later, I end up here, he ends up here. So but he's a guy that I've always coveted in, even when I was a coordinator, he was a guy that I looked at just because the attributes, as you said, he's got speed, he's got quickness. There's so many things that an inside linebacker has to do now in today's football. They not only have to play the run, they got to, obviously play the pass. They get matched up on tight ends. They get matched up on running backs. Even when you get formationally with a receiver in the slot, a linebacker gets matched up on a receiver. In this system, we do a lot of things with our linebackers from a pressure standpoint. So you got to be a good blitzer. You got to be able to beat offensive linemen. You got to be able to beat backs. You got to be able to read protections. So those are all things that he's done very well for us.
How difficult is it to find that position? The way the game is changing and evolving.
It's hard. It really is, because you look at your old school glass eater linebacker. Maybe he can take on a fullback or take on a guard, but those days are kind of over with the offenses that we're defending. So football's kind of gotten to, okay, let's get those safeties that maybe aren't quite athletic enough to play DB. Let's move them to linebacker, but they don't have the instincts and the awareness. So I think that's where football's really gone probably the last 10 years, is that those do-it-all linebackers, they're hard to find, because you want them to be glass eaters. You want them to be really good in the run, but with all the things like I just mentioned, you have to be athletic enough to be able to do all those different things in space with matchups on great tight ends, on wide receivers, on backs. So they're very hard to find. It's become a position that's quite unique.
A follow-up question about Jordan, and this is just a philosophical question. Why isn't he the green dot player as opposed to, you've had David do it, and then you've had Anthony Walker do it?
I think that's a great question. You're only allowed one, so you have to truly choose. I think a number of things go into that. I think a lot of times, and I think Jordan's totally capable and could do it. But a lot of times, specifically what determines whether a linebacker wears the green dot or not, I put it into two categories. There's guys that are listeners and then guys that are talkers. And what I mean by that is that there's some guys that can play the game and talk and communicate and get everyone lined up and hear the call and give it to the huddle and do all that and play their game. There's also guys, when you ask them to do that, their play goes down.
And that's what, there's some guys that are listeners. There's some guys that just listen, get the call, get lined up, and then go ball. So I think it's always our job as coaches to determine, do you have a listener or do you have a talker? And I think it's, fortunately, back to like what we talked about with Anthony. Anthony's a dude that he can process a lot. He can take in a lot and communicate, and then when the ball snapped, play. Fortunately for Jordan just has to listen, get the call, and go ball, and he's been doing that. So I absolutely think if we were ever in a situation, could Jordan do that? I absolutely think he could. But fortunately, we're in a position where he can just listen and go play ball.
How similar is the 49ers offensive scheme to the Dolphins?
I always look at those questions. It's kind of like when Bill Walsh initially came up with the West Coast offense. He had a ton of people that kind of broke off away from him. The Mike Holmgrens, the Andy Reeds, the John Grudens, Steve Mariucci. They all were West Coast guys, but they kind of put their individual stamp on it. I think when you look at Kyle, when you look at Sean McVay, when you look at Matt LaFleur, when you look at Mike, they're all, there was a number of years where they were all together in the same staff room, putting this all together. So it's the same system, and it's from the same birthplace, but they've kind of, as they've gone out into the world, they've kind of put their own stamp on it. So there's similarities with every single one of those offenses, but they're all uniquely different. And that's quite common through the history of football and definitely the history of offense.
He's a coordinator in this league, so I want to ask what you've seen in Anthony Weaver getting back in the coordinator ranks this year, and maybe his prospects to one day be a head coach.
Yeah, well, I'll answer the last part of that first and foremost. He absolutely is. He's if people aren't looking at him as a head coaching candidate, they absolutely should, because I think he has every single quality in being a head coach and leading a team. Just look at the way he's led our side of the ball. I think he's incredibly smart. He's incredibly detailed. He motivates the guys very well. I think he's one of those guys. He played in the league, so he understands the mindset of a player, truly being in that chair. And he's done, I can't say enough great things about him, just the way because Anthony and I knew each other, but we had never worked together. So until you truly come in and work with someone, you don't really understand and know how they are. We've done an amazing job, both from a staff standpoint, implementing, we're implementing a brand new defense in the first year in the system. And that's a unique challenge in itself. And I think he's done an amazing job with not only the staff, but the players. Weave he cut his teeth in this league as a defensive line guy, as a front guy, but he has unbelievable awareness and command of the back end and the passing game. So can't say enough great things about what he's done for all of us, both on the coaching staff and the defensive players.
I've got a question for reality versus fantasy. How when you were in
I like to live in reality, by the way.
So do I.
Yeah.
I hope this answer resides in reality. When you're in elementary school, your teacher tells you that's going to be on your permanent record forever. There's no permanent record.
Yeah.
When you guys tell players you don't want to put bad stuff on film, it's this time of year. If your team is 4-10, will you ever go back and look at the last 3 games of a guy's season and go, yeah, he kind of dogged it those last 3, I don't want him? Does that actually happen?
It does. I think it equates with what you're saying. We have a saying: your film is your resume. And as a player, it's not like you walk into a job interview and you hand them a paper resume. As a player and a coach, for that matter, your tape is your resume, and it doesn't matter if it's week 1 or the second round of the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you're 11-0 or you're 2-9. what you put on film really defines who you are in this league as a coach and a player. So coaches definitely know that, and obviously players know that as well. So, in the evaluation process, both, like what we're getting ready to do here in a couple months with the draft, whether it's free agency, whether it's game planning during the week, it's not like we say, oh, let's throw that game out because they were, they're 3-8. We evaluate everything, and I think that's and everyone knows that. That's not shocking.
Will you look at a college player specifically saying his team only had 5 wins? Let me see if he gave effort in these last 3 games.
Oh, sure. I think that's something that you can really, you can. I define that as not character, but football character. What kind of football character does a guy have when he's getting his butt kicked? He looks at the score. He knows, hey, we're down by 3 touchdowns. But, man, this guy's still giving everything he has. That's the type of guy that you want to get. So, but obviously I think you're judged, whether you look at it fortunately or unfortunately, you're judged on everything in this league, no matter what.
With 2 veteran starters and obviously 2 veteran backups, we might go the whole year without Channing getting a single defensive snap. Have you ever wondered what you would get from him if you played him an entire regular season game? What do you think you would get from him?
Yeah, I do. I think I can judge that off of, really just being around him one off season. I kind of, I was quite happy with what he was able to do in the preseason, because the preseason was kind of, he basically played 3/4 of every game. So he was going into that, those 3 preseason games every week, kind of being the guy that was going to play almost wire to wire. So, and Channing did, I know it's unfortunate for him that he's got, the 4 guys that he has in front of him, but I do think from day one when I met him in February, through the offseason, through training camp, through the preseason games, I did think he made improvements and made strides. It's just been unfortunate that he hadn't been able to show it on Sundays.
What does that look like to you in communicating to him, with him in the room, and how did he go about that?
We're always communicating, in game, and then there's always an evaluation process after the game. And, Tua has always been great. He takes coaching very well. You can coach him hard. And I think, I like the way that, we handled it.
From your view on those 3 interceptions, I don't want you to play the blame game, but it looked like, at least on the final 2, Tua kind of threw the ball behind Tyreek. Is that kind of a correct estimation, or how did you view the 3 interceptions?
Well, I think everybody's kind of, I know Tua talked, Mike talked, Tyreek talked. We're just kind of moving on to San Fran, So I don't want to continue to get into, just keep this thing alive. So I think Tua's been playing outstanding football. He's been playing at a really high level, executing our offense very well, getting the ball to the guys where it's supposed to go. And I think the last time I was here, we talked about him playing at a consistent level and something that we can count on each and every week. And I think he had been doing that. And and then in that last game, we had a couple plays that, of course, that we'd like to have back. And so our mission is to get back on track to where we were playing and the level that we can expect. I thought the game against the Jets is one that kind of speaks volumes for how far he's come and how well he's been playing with getting points at the end of the half, getting points at the end of the game, taking us down, scoring touchdowns in the overtime. So that's what we expect out of him, and that's what we'll continue to work on moving forward.
Yeah, I know you guys don't want to make excuses. Tua was in a tough place, and other quarterbacks have been in that spot. No right tackle, third team right tackle. Teron's not out there. Run game is struggling. You're down Jalen Waddle. What can a quarterback do to help himself out in that situation?
He's got to continue to play the game the way that he's been playing it. You have to have that internal clock going off in your head. But also, besides Tua, we need him reading it, seeing it, and throwing it. But then we need to do a good job of helping them in the areas that we can take care of things as well. And all of it works together. That's why it's so hard to just put it at the feet of one person. You have 11 guys trying to function as one, and then the play caller and those kind of things trying to make it all come together. And so sometimes you have little breakdowns here and there, and that's what you continue to work to shore up.
Is there human nature to press in that situation, knowing, okay, that the right tackle isn't the same or the run game isn't, I've got to do more? Is that human nature? Does he fight that?
I think everybody fights human nature, but I think the important thing is it's hard to put into words all the things that that a quarterback has to do. There's tons of there's the physical part that he's doing. There's also the mental part that he's doing, and then has to react to all the other stuff that's going on around him. And so. The one thing that I preach the most is that each play stands on its own merit, and so you can't let the last play affect the next play. Let's say whatever player it is, it broke down, or let's say it's the protection broke down. Well, I can't say the protection is going to break down this next play, otherwise I can get out of whack. So I have to trust that last play is its own play, and this next play is the play. I have to play this play like everything's going to work out, and so that's the human nature part of it. Where I can't let those last plays or the success or failures of those other plays impact this one. And whether it's a short memory on an interception, short memory on protection, whatever it is, you have to be locked in on all the things that we talk about: the footwork, the progression, the sound bite, those kind of things.
Not about this team specifically, obviously, or this team at all, but you'll sometimes hear the line, not everyone can play in this system. When it comes to quarterback with this team, Darrell, do you think any quarterback who's talented and who's smart can play in this system, or do you think there are certain quarterbacks who might not have the skill set needed to play in this particular system, and what would those skills be that you need in this system different from others?
That's a very deep question right there. Yeah, you need some time to digest that and think that whole thing through. But I'll say this: I think, I think that's where coaching can have an impact on it. And what I'm saying is I would like to think that we can take talented players, as you were saying, put them in the offense, and that we could get success out of them. It might not look the same as what we're doing with Tua or whoever it is. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take their skill sets that they have and then ask them to do the things that they're the best at. And then with the things that they don't do well, then you're trying to minimize those and not let those show up. I think that's part of coaching, part of putting game plans together, is to put any player in the best light that you can with the skill sets that they have. You can talk about receivers. You have fast receivers, you have slower possession receivers, you have big receivers, you have short receivers, and all of them can be successful in their own right. But it's how you put them in those situations to help their skill sets become their assets.
And you've obviously coached in a bunch of systems with different teams. Is it harder here for a quarterback to come in and learn a system to be able to play than it traditionally is in the NFL, or is that not the case?
I don't think so. I think the biggest part of coming in into any system is digesting the verbiage. A lot of the plays, there's similar concepts or things that quarterbacks that have been playing it for a long time can fall back on. Whether it's a college concept, whether it's if they come in from another team, the concept that they've had there. So you can carry over, okay, I've done that. That's a high-low concept, or that's a full field, whatever those things may be. But then I think the one thing that sets us apart a little bit is, at least in the way we're doing it right now, is the timing with our feet, and then our timing with the anticipation to let the ball go. So that's, I think that's one of the things that you see with Tua the most.
Tua said he didn't need to take the hit that he did on the scramble where he dove forward, trying to get a first down. How do you view him as far as taking contact? Is it don't take any unnecessary hits? Is there a sliding scale on that play might be worth going for it? If you need that extra second in the pocket, go ahead and take the hit as you throw on this play. How do you view it?
Yeah, you're trying to minimize the hits on the quarterback. Within the pocket, I mean, those guys are all very courageous, standing in there and letting the ball go. So there's really not much you can do there. But it's the decisions outside the pocket that you make. I go back to my time with Russell Wilson. I think like he was one of the best at when he got outside the pocket of knowing, okay, when to keep the play alive, throw the ball down the field, when to run and get down, when to run and get out of bounds. And you didn't see him taking big hits. So that's something that we continue to talk to Tua about. It is fighting a little bit of the human nature and the competitive fire that these guys have, and the belief of the things that they can do. At least on that one, it was a third down, and he's thinking he's going to get the first down on that one. But where it is in the game, there's always a time and a place where, hey, I got to go get this, and it can help the team win, or making the decisions like this is not that time. And we continue to talk about it all the time, but we're trying to minimize as many of those hits as we can.
I have a question about Skylar, and I know some of this stuff needs to stay private. I'm not trying to get too personal. Have you had to have private talks with Skylar either before Seattle, after Seattle, when he's got the rib injury, when Snoop gets activated, when he gets released, and how has he been with those?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's a part of the coaching, that a lot of times doesn't get seen. And I think that, there's a lot of things that can go through a player's mind when you go through situations like that he's gone through. So yeah, we're in constant communication. We talk all the time. I really try to have honest assessments, honest conversations with him, where he is, whether all parts, physical, mental, everything. And we have those conversations constantly.
On the two things which you noted, Darrell, certainly are a hallmark of what's needed from quarterbacks: your timing with your feet, timing with your anticipation to let the ball go. How is Tyler Huntley in those areas?
He's done really well, and that was some. I think if you go back when we first got him, I think that's what I talked about in here was one of the things that was most impressive to me, because you just kind of have I don't even know what you call it, a TV scouting view of like just really quickly being able to assess him, and until you break the film down or until you get him and get your hands on him, some of those things you don't quite know. And so getting him here, watching how he works, watching how he throws, watching his ability to throw on time, I've been really excited about where he's gone with it.